Chapter 11. Where Are Your Curls? While Ostap was checking out the second building of the old Social Security, Ippolit Matveyevich, having just left the janitor's room and feeling the chill on his freshly shaved head, wandered through the streets of his hometown. Spring water ran bright along the cobblestones. The air was filled with the constant crackle and clatter of diamond-like drops falling from the rooftops. Sparrows were busy scavenging for scraps. The sun perched on every roof. Golden draft horses stomped loudly on the bare pavement, their ears cocked, clearly enjoying the sound of their own hooves. The damp telegraph poles, soggy notices with smeared chemical ink clung for dear life, guitar lessons by the number system, and civics tutoring for those preparing for the People's Conservatory. A squad of Red Army soldiers in winter helmets marched bravely through a puddle that started at the Starjico store and stretched all the way to the Guplin building, whose pediment was topped with plaster tigers, victories, and cobras. Ippolit Matveyevich walked on, curiously eyeing the people passing by in every direction. He'd lived in Russia his whole life, through the revolution and all, and had seen how daily life was broken down, patched up, and changed. He was used to it, or so he thought. Turns out he was only used to it in one tiny corner of the world, the provincial town of N. Coming back home, he realized he didn't understand anything anymore. Felt awkward and out of place, as if he really were an immigrant just arrived from Paris. In the old days, riding through town in a carriage, he'd always run into someone he knew, or at least someone whose face he recognized. Now, after walking 4 blocks down Leninsky Event Street, he hadn't seen a single familiar face. Maybe they'd all disappeared, or maybe they'd aged so much he couldn't recognize them, or maybe they were just unrecognizable now, wearing different clothes and hats. Maybe they even walked differently. Either way, they were gone. Ippolit Matveyevich walked on, pale, cold, and lost. He'd completely forgotten he was supposed to be looking for the housing department, or whatever was left of it. Instead, he wandered aimlessly from sidewalk to sidewalk, ducking into side streets where the draft horses stomped even more deliberately. In the alleys, winter still lingered, and here and there he found ice the color of a rotten tooth. The whole city looked different. Blue houses had turned green, yellow ones were now gray. The fire station's tower had lost its bombs. The firemen no longer paced up and down, and the streets were much noisier than he remembered. In Bolsha Pushkinskaya, Ippolit Matveyevich was surprised to see streetcar rails and poles with wires, things he'd never seen in Stargorod before. He didn't read the papers and had no idea that by May Day, Stargorod was planning to open 2 streetcar lines, the station line and the market line. Sometimes it felt like he'd never left Stargorod, and other times it seemed like a completely foreign place. Lost in these thoughts, he reached Marx and Engels Street. Here, a childhood feeling came back to him. Any second now, a familiar face would appear from around the corner of the 2-story house with the long balcony. He even stopped waiting, but no one came. First, a glazier appeared, carrying a box of German glass and a loaf of copper-colored putty. Then a dandy in a suede cap with a yellow leather visor rounded the corner. After him came a group of schoolkids, their books strapped together. Suddenly, Ippolit Matveyevich felt his palms grow hot and his stomach go cold. Walking straight toward him was a stranger with a kind face, carrying a chair like a cello. Ippolit Matveyevich, suddenly struck with hiccups, stared and immediately recognized his own chair. Yes, it was the Gam's chair, upholstered in English chintz with little flowers, darkened by the storms of the revolution. It was the walnut chair with the curved legs. Ippolit Matveyevich felt as if someone had fired a gun right next to his ear. Knives and scissors sharpened, razors honed, boomed a baritone voice nearby. A thin echo followed. Soldering repairs. Moscow Gazette Izvestia, magazine Smekhetch, Red Neva, Stargorod Pravda. Somewhere above, a pane of glass shattered with a crash. A Melstry truck rumbled by, shaking the city. A policeman whistled. Life was boiling over. There was no time to lose. With a leopard's leap, Ippolit Matveyevich lunged at the infuriating stranger and silently yanked the chair toward himself. The stranger yanked it back. Then, gripping one of the legs with his left hand, Ippolit Matveyevich started prying the stranger's thick fingers off the chair. "Help, I'm being robbed," the stranger whispered, clutching the chair even tighter. Excuse me," Ippolit Matveyevich stammered, still peeling off the stranger's fingers. A small crowd began to gather. 3 people were already standing nearby, watching the conflict with keen interest. Both men glanced around nervously, and without looking at each other but still clinging to the chair, they quickly walked off together as if nothing had happened. What is this? Ippolit Matveyevich thought desperately. What the stranger was thinking was impossible to tell, but his stride was determined. They walked faster and faster, and when they spotted an empty lot in a deserted alley, filled with gravel and building materials, they turned in unison. Here, Ippolit Matveyevich's strength quadrupled. "Let go already," he shouted, not caring who heard. "Police," the stranger gasped, barely audible. Their hands full, they started kicking each other. The stranger's boots had metal tips, and at first, Ippolit Matveyevich was at a disadvantage. But he quickly adapted, dodging left and right like he was dancing the Krakowiak, avoiding the stranger's kicks and aiming for his stomach. He couldn't land a hit there because the chair was in the way, but he did manage to kick the stranger's kneecap, after which the man could only kick with his left leg. "Oh Lord," the stranger whispered. And then Ippolit Matveyevich saw that the infuriating chair thief was none other than Father Fyodor Vostrikov, priest of the Church of Frol and Laver. Ippolit Matveyevich was stunned. "Father," he exclaimed, letting go of the chair in surprise. Father Vostrikov turned purple and finally released his grip. The chair, unsupported, crashed onto the broken bricks. "So where's your mustache, dear Ippolit Matveyevich?" the priest asked, with as much sarcasm as he could muster. "And where are your curls? Didn't you used to have curls?" There was unbearable contempt in Ippolit Matveyevich's voice. He gave Father Fyodor a look of extraordinary dignity, tucked the chair under his arm and turned to leave. But Father Fyodor, having recovered, wasn't about to let him win so easily. With a shout of "No, I don't think so," he grabbed the chair again. The standoff resumed. Both adversaries stood, gripping the legs like cats or boxers, sizing each other up and pacing from side to side. The heart-stopping pause lasted a full minute. "So it's you, Holy Father," Ippolit Matveyevich growled, "hunting for my property." With that, he kicked the priest in the thigh. Father Fyodor twisted and landed a vicious kick to Ippolit Matveyevich's groin, making him double over and hiss. "That's not your property." "Whose is it, then?" "Not yours." "Then whose?" "Not yours, not yours." "Whose then whose?" "Not yours." Hissing like that, they kept kicking each other furiously. "Whose property is it then?" Ippolit Matveyevich yelled, driving his foot into the priest's stomach. Fighting through the pain, the priest said firmly, "It's nationalized property." "Nationalized?" "Yes, yes, nationalized." They spoke so fast, their words ran together. "Who nationalized it?" "The Soviet government, the Soviet government." "Which government, which government?" "The government of the working people." "Aha," Ippolit Matveyevich said, freezing up like a mint, "the government of the workers and peasants." "Yes, yes." "So maybe you, Holy Father, are a party member." "Maybe." That was too much for Ippolit Matveyevich. With a howl of maybe, he spat right in Father Fyodor's kindly face. Father Fyodor immediately spat back, hitting Ippolit Matveyevich squarely. There was nothing to wipe the spit with, their hands were still full of chair. Ippolit Matveyevich made a noise like a door creaking open and shoved the chair at his enemy with all his might. The enemy fell, dragging the gasping Vorobyaninov down with him. The fight continued on the ground. Suddenly there was a crack, the two front legs snapped off at once. Forgetting each other, the rivals tore into the walnut treasure chest. With a mournful cry, the English chintz ripped. The backrest flew off, flung by a mighty jerk. The treasure hunters ripped off the burlap and brass buttons, digging their fingers into the wool stuffing and cutting themselves on the springs. The disturbed springs sang. 5 minutes later, the chair was picked clean. All that was left were the horns and legs. Springs rolled in every direction. The wind scattered rotten wool across the lot. The curved legs lay in a pit. There were no diamonds. "Well, did you find anything?" Ippolit Matveyevich asked, out of breath. Father Fyodor, covered in tufts of wool, panted and said nothing. "You're a crook," Ippolit Matveyevich shouted. "I'll smash your face in, Father Fyodor." "Your arms are too short," the priest replied. "So where are you going, all covered in fluff?" "What's it to you?" "Shame on you, Father, you're just a thief." "I didn't steal anything from you." "How did you find out about this? Did you use the secrets of confession for your own gain? Very nice, very classy." With an indignant PFF, Ippolit Matveyevich left the lot, brushing the wool off his coat sleeves as he walked home. At the corner of Leninsky Event Street and Eurofiev Lane, Vorobyaninov spotted his partner. The technical director and chief manager of the concession was standing half-turned, his left foot raised, while a bootblack polished the top of his shoe with canary yellow cream. Ippolit Matveyevich ran up to him. The director was humming Shimmy without a care. "Camels used to do it. That's how the Batacudas used to dance. But now the whole world's dancing the shimmy." "So how's the housing department?" he asked briskly, then added, "Wait, don't tell me yet, you're too worked up, cool off first." After tipping the bootblack 7 kopecks, Ostap took Vorobyaninov by the arm and led him down the street. "Okay, spill it." Ostap listened closely to everything the agitated Ippolit Matveyevich poured out. "Aha, short black beard, got it, coat with a lambswool collar, I see, that's the chair from the almshouse, bought this morning for 3 rubles. But wait." And Ippolit Matveyevich told the chief concessionaire all about Father Fyodor's treachery. Ostap's face darkened. "That's bad," he said. "It's like the Lechway's cave, a mysterious rival. We need to get ahead of him and we'll have plenty of time to rough him up later." To the housing department, the meeting continues. While the friends grabbed a bite at the Stenka Raisin Beer Hall and Ostap found out which building used to house the housing department and what was there now, the day came to an end. The golden draft horses turned brown again. The diamond drops chilled in midair and splattered to the ground. In the bars and at the Phoenix restaurant, beer prices went up. It was evening. On Bolshaya Pushkinskaya, the electric lights came on, and as they walked home from their first spring outing, a troop of pioneers marched by, their boots drumming. The evening strolls began. A rental car drove down Bolshaya Pushkinskaya. The first crowd poured out of the movie theater, having just watched the third episode of the American action flick Sharks of New York. The tigers, victories, and cobras of the Gupland building glowed mysteriously under the rising city moon. Walking home with the suddenly silent Ostap, Ippolit Matveyevich looked up at the Gupland tigers and cobras. In his day, this had been the provincial council office, and the townspeople were very proud of the cobras, considering them a Stargorod landmark. I'll find it, Ippolit Matveyevich thought, staring at the plaster victory. The tigers wagged their tails kindly, the cobras coiled up happily, and Ippolit Matveyevich's heart filled with confidence.